my God, oof, oof, oh, oof, oh, oh, ooh, ooh, not today, oh, 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 oh my God, oh.
Hey, Chad.
Yeah.
You want to do a podcast?
Sure.
It's the PC Pop Culture News Show! Hi, everybody. Welcome to the PC Pop Culture News Show. It is, by all ways and means, a podcast, and we're going to be going through the podcast format on a lot of this. But the original inception of this was as a news show. On a personal level, I got sick of looking everywhere, and there's just nonstop streaming people talking about sports and not enough nerdy stuff. And you know, Chad and I obviously coming up from high school, being the kids that were always team captains and doing all these sports, we didn't know anything about nerdy stuff, and so we figured, hey, we need a source to hear about these things. Where can we get that? So we made it. No, PC pop culture, calling it pop culture. It's going to be about a lot of different media. We're really excited to present a lot of general news and then some specific insight. Specific insight meaning, coming from me, I have 15 years as a professional wrestler, very accomplished as an indie guy, doing some WWE type stuff, working with Ring of Honor, been all over the place. I have a lot of insight on that. I am currently a comic book artist. I am touring conventions, so I'm out there with my finger on the pulse, getting the latest of what's going down inside both of these industries, as well as other realms of entertainment through the context I have. And I'm looking to not just give my opinion on things as much as give you the news of what's going on and give you some insider insight on a lot of what's going on. Let's hear about who you are, Mr. Chad.
Well, I am a musician. I write chiptune music. I do electronic music. I like to remix stuff. If there's something I like, I just like to do it. I'm a huge professional wrestling fan. I did try wrestling, didn't work out, but I'm still a huge fan, huge action figure collector, and a collector of all sorts of media, anything from soundtracks to movies to rare pieces of music. So I'll be keeping you up to date on things like that.
And so between us, a lot of great insight on a lot of different things going on. We're going to jump right into it in just a second, I guess. Another part of the format and the concept of this also is listening to a lot of podcasts, doing a lot of traveling myself. I want to give you something you can listen to with kids in the car, so you can get your nerdly news, you can get your insight. We're going to keep down on the swears. We're going to keep the dirty jokes in check. Please bear with us. We want to hit the ground running. If we waited till everything was perfect, we'd never have a podcast. So please excuse the video quality for those of you that are watching on video, and any hiccups that we have along the way. Just kind of bear with us. Hopefully we'll get to a point where the only bugs we have are the ones that are unfortunately living on my skin. So yeah, we're keeping it clean, giving you news, and we're going to get into that news right now. This being the first episode, I'm going to give some broad scoping things and not narrow in on as many specifics as we hope to down the road.
That's a mouthful.
We're going to start off with comic book stuff. Now, for those of you that don't know, I won't plug my own projects yet. That'll be up and coming. And next podcast, which we're going to be every other week to start, but next week we're going to have a bonus episode. So next week we'll talk about the good things that Valiant Comics is doing. We're going to talk about the big crossovers with DC and how they're introducing Watchmen into their main universe. We'll talk about Marvel's Secret Empire, and we're going to talk about what I think should be the comeback of legacy numbering. But I do want to just give you an overview for those of you that aren't into the comics so much or are. A book here called Previews. Your local comic book shop carries this. It is a huge catalog. It has t-shirts, toys, things like that you won't find in a lot of other stores. So it's an opportunity to get some stuff through your local comic shop that they won't have on the shelf. And in that same regards, there's a lot of comic books in here. I mean, you're going to see your Supermans and Batmans and your Marvel stuff on the shelf. because it's safe that they're eventually going to sell through it. But if you have unique interests,
like Swamp Thing,
like Swamp Thing,
or maybe Man Thing,
a giant-sized Man Thing, I implore you to go to your shop, check out previews, see what's available, ask them to order some stuff for you, because there's a lot of great things out there, and I'll just give you a quick rundown. Here's some stuff that has some properties that have comic books that aren't from the big two, and you never know when the next big thing is going to be. Like Image, Walking Dead. Walking Dead hit it big as a TV show. The first issue is the first comic book to be worth quite a bit of money in a long time, but please don't do it for speculating for money. Please do it speculating for finding the next cool project. And properties out there right now that have comic books that you might be interested in, that your comic book store probably doesn't have on the shelf because they can't guarantee they're going to sell it. Unless you let them know you're going to pick it up, and maybe you can start a market for them. So cool properties with comics right now: Street Fighter, Pokemon, Scooby-Doo, Army of Darkness, Steven Universe. Ninja Turtles have comics, and they've got like classic versions of them. They've got the cartoon versions of them. You can get movie versions of them. So whatever Turtles you're into, you can find the book for you. Miraculous, the kids are into, has a comic. Transformers, Alien. These comic books have been around a long time. Some of these were comic books before they were movies or shows. But please, if you're not into the superhero scene, there's a lot of great stuff to check out. They're Headlocked, a local friend of ours, has a great wrestling comic book. My Omega Chapters, Sidekick, Pratt, all great locally made comic books that you can find.
My Little Pony has one.
My Little Pony has comic books. And big ups to a couple of Image comics that have been around for a while. Actually, Spawn is hitting issue 276. 276 issues of Spawn. And that book is still going and going strong. And Savage Dragon, 226 issues of Savage Dragon. But major big ups to Eric Larson on that. He is still writing it and drawing it 226 issues later. That's years of just hammering away at his same character under the belt. And considering that creators stay on a book for like 5 or 6 issues, maybe finish out a small arc, but half the time don't even make it that far in a book. Bless Eric Larson and what he's done with staying on Savage Dragon and just grinding away for so long and keeping it interesting and fun. Is there any comic books that you've checked out lately aside from the My Little Ponies?
Well, I did read The Secret Empire about Captain America, so all you butthurt fans out there, boo-hoo, just read the story. It's your typical Marvel segue.
That's their big summer crossover event. Again, we'll get onto the details of that and what he's talking about a lot of hurt feelings out there with what's going on next week. We'll dig into that one. Toy World. What do we got going on in the wacky world of toys?
Well, we live in the Northeast, so if you're in the Northeast, we've had some distribution issues with Mattel and WWE lately, but you should check your local Target, Walmart, and Toys R Us because they're almost all on the same page as far as the elite figures go and the basic figures go. So everything up to the series that has the dreaded Rhino figure with the big shoulders, even though I like that figure, is probably hitting your retail store right now. So check that out. Other than that, there's nothing too big. Aside from maybe the game Light Seekers, which is going to have, to my knowledge, one of the first action figures. It's actually going to be interactive with an app. You don't want to call it Toys to Life because it's certainly not that. But if you're a fan of small soldiers, you're probably going to want to check this action figure out.
And in a non-figure specific chunk of toy news that's actually hitting people pretty hard right now. HasCon 2017, Hasbro, whom is based in Rhode Island, is having a convention in Providence, Rhode Island, September 8th to 10th of 2017. I will not have a table set up at that, but like I do so many of the Comic-Cons, but I am probably going to go check that one out. Probably going to ride down there with this guy. So HasCon, Hasbro, based in Rhode Island, has a convention coming up September 8th through 10th in Providence. And they even have a trailer for it. That's a video trailer. That's kind of interesting that I watched literally just moments before we got set up for the podcast. So jump out there and take a look at that. Wrestling news. Rather than get into some of the specifics, we'll touch upon a Twitter issue in a moment. But I just want to give you folks out there just a little wrestling education quick before we get to that. There is a lot of great wrestling right now. We're in another great era where what happens in the ring matters as far as skill-wise. what happens on TV matters as far as storylines. And people are abuzz. The internet wrestling community is huge right now. There's lots to talk about. No matter what kind of wrestling you might like, there's something out there for you. And that's one of the glorious things about wrestling is there's so many types. I love the athletics of it. I love the high flying. I myself love doing flips and dives physically. It takes its toll, but it feels real natural to me, and I love that. But I also love strong style smash 'em in the face wrestling, and I love the ridiculous, singing and dancing Pile Driver the album type material from the 80s and even into today. So WWE, obviously, big dog on the block. If you don't know what that is, phooey on you. But they've got some good stuff going on. If you don't like what's going on with Raw and SmackDown, they have a sub-brand called NXT. NXT you can get on Hulu or on the WWE Network, and that has more solid wrestling and more exciting in-ring material with less of the storylines going on. They don't have a lot of backstage camera stuff happening. Everything happens right there in the ring. So if you're an old fan of indie wrestling, you like ECW back in the day, that's something to check out, but it's still WWE. And a lot of guys are coming up that way. So your stars of tomorrow are happening in NXT.
Also, it's just an hour long, so if you're going to chew up an hour's worth of time and not the 3-hour commitment of Raw, with NXT, you can definitely get your wrestling fill.
So that's me. Right now on Netflix, you have Lucha Underground, which is American-based Lucha Libre wrestling. It's the guys in the masks. Not all of them are classic luchadors. Some are guys from the indie circuit that they put a mask on, stuck them in there. But I'll tell you, some of the most talented guys in the world, they can fly, and they can hit hard, and they can tell a story in a match. And it is a lot of fun because the stuff in the ring is ridiculous. Just double, triple flips and over the top and under and big reversals. If you like insane, crazy flying wrestling action, they have it. Plus the cutaways, the storylines are total soap opera, super Spanish-style soap opera material. Way over the top, cheesy, which is a lot of fun. So you got a great contrast of the serious, real action and the cheese. And there's actually story arcs that continue throughout the season and resolve and then continue again, like big operatic story arcs. What's your feeling on the action versus the stories?
The storylines, to me, out of all the wrestling that's out there, actually make the most sense. And especially the way they're shot, because it's not always there's a camera there, even though there wouldn't be a camera there if you really think about it. But I love the storylines. I do like the action. But the storylines are what sells me on Lucha Underground.
I love them both. And yeah, the storylines are just so over the top ridiculous that it makes more sense than some of the more realistic ones. It's just super enjoyable product. And it's on Netflix. So you probably already have an account. Jump on there. Check out a couple of episodes. Skip around a bit. And let us know what you think. And if you're into serious wrestling action, you don't want any of that behind-the-scenes material. You just want serious in-ring butt-kicking and a few flips. And you don't want to understand most of the commentary. The New Japan is what's for you. New Japan is also very hot right now. Obviously, it's a Japanese wrestling promotion. It has a lot of the superstars that WWE's been trying to soak up. It has guys that are working for Lucha Underground and New Japan. And it has good wrestling action, but right now what really defines New Japan is factions. It has the groups of people warring with each other, and almost everybody has heard in some way, shape, or form of Bullet Club. Finn Balor in WWE right now has come from Bullet Club. The Club, Carl Anderson and Drew, what's the other guy?
Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows.
Whatever you want to call they came from the Bullet Club and were original members, those three. AJ Styles, when Finn Balor left, he became the leader of the Bullet Club and really dove into it.
Jeff Jarrett's part of the Bullet Club.
Jeff Jarrett, he's part of everything when he shows up, so he makes an extra buck.
Buy those gold bars.
So the Bullet Club's the most known faction. You've seen their T-shirt ripped off everywhere. Everybody's used that insignia.
Yeah, I've used that insignia.
It's the elbow drop has seen it also, and it's cool. And that's how you may know it. Kenny Omega's running the Bullet Club now, and I can't wait for he's doing great things, but he'll be cool when he shows up in WWE.
You're a Kenny Omega fanboy, straight up.
I enjoy him. I enjoy what he's got going on. Yeah.
Just admit it.
He's got a lot of cool stuff going on. And he pays homage to a lot of pop culture things. And that makes it fun. What I don't like is how him and the Bucks have made the Elite more important than putting over Bullet Club, which is what kind of, in a way, New Japan got him famous. I'd like to see him dedicate more time to that. But back to factions. So for general knowledge, Bullet Club is kind of waning. They're kind of coming down, and the LIJ is coming up. But you also have a group called Chaos, and the LIJ is becoming the big one. They're Los Ingobernables de Japan, which sounds very Mexican because it was a Mexican faction. They took it when they were in Mexico, and they made a Japanese version of it. And it's really cool because they're kind of horror-based characters. So you got some, a guy with a lucha mask that's, Scully, and he switches masks. Cool thing going on with that. You got Evil, who's guy comes out with a Sith and a hood, and you got some great wrestling talent in there and some great characters and charisma in that faction. They're my favorite over Bullet Club right now because I'm a big Halloween guy and I enjoy all the guys in the faction. So definitely, if you like straight up in-ring action without any shenanigans, check out your New Japan. And a quick rundown of other indies and maybe where to find them, because there's Chikara out there, which is fun cartoony stuff. There's Ring of Honor out there, which is serious wrestling, trying to find its way. TNA Impact Wrestling, whatever you want to call it. Also, they're lost. They're trying to find their way, so I'm not going to talk them up as much. But just run down some of the channels that you can find these different wrestling
I like Evolve. That's really hard-hitting. If you don't want to watch something that's Japanese and you want to watch something that's still just as serious, Evolve is phenomenal. You have to go through the World Wrestling Network, WWN. I'm not a big fan of their service, but we'll get to that another day. Chikara is phenomenal. When you were describing that faction, New Japan, I haven't watched New Japan since AJ, Carl, and Doc left. Chikara has a lot of those kind of storylines. And Chikarapedia, which is an online streaming service that I pay for, it's only like, I think, $7.99. Phenomenal streaming service. They break it down in seasons, and if you're a comic book fan and you want to break into wrestling, this might be something that will hold your interest.
Big bond between Chikara and their comic booking stuff. If you don't want to jump right into the streaming service, you're curious, you haven't watched stuff in a while, most of these companies have a little bit of content up on YouTube, so you can preview it and just kind of get a feel of what they're about and see what it is that appeals to you. So we got your into comics, we got your into toys, we got your into wrestling. But for something that's topical right now, that's such a hot topic that we kind of have to touch on it this week, is the old Twitterverse. And yep. I've got some strong feelings on this, so jump right into it. What do we got going on, bud?
Essentially, Randy Orton called out a lot of the high flyers and a lot of the marks for high flyers, and he was pretty negative, but I feel like his argument was pretty spot on. I think it's interesting, too, to watch people like The Miz. If you remember the argument that The Miz had with Daniel Bryan about not taking dives and things of that nature, and The Miz rarely gets hurt, and he's always around. I'm a huge fan of WCW, like mid-90s to the late 90s, and if you watch some of their in-ring action, you believe that the person's actually getting hurt because they're working a leg, and working means they keep hitting it and they keep striking it. Whereas today, it is a lot of high spots. It is a lot of, no selling where the wrestlers don't just shrug it off, like they're the Terminator. And that, to me, just kind of loses it after a while, unless there's something else, because you have your Seth Rollins, who are good, but, how do you explain Seth Rollins to somebody?
Orton said a couple things. He talked about, what I didn't like is he took shots at indie promotions only selling 120 tickets or whatever, which is pretty good for an indie promotion these days. First of all, he's out there and bajillion people watching him wrestle, but he came into that. He wasn't like handed it per se, but he's got the name, so he had an easy foot in the door already, which is of course the hardest part. He doesn't have to work as hard as the indie guys because he's going to be on TV no matter what. So you got these indie guys, if they're going to get any traction on their YouTube clips, if these indie promotions are going to sell the DVDs, you got to have something that creates buzz. And these crazy dives, these crazy moves and crazy flips is people's way of doing that. You got a guy like Cody Rhodes who is left WWE, and he's doing great on the indie circuit. He's been in New Japan. He's doing all this stuff. And he doesn't have to do the flips, but he's also carrying the momentum of his name and the momentum he has from being on TV with WWE. So he can have a more simple match and get away with it. And by all means, if you can, do. Even if you can do a strong style, it's a little less risky. But honestly, one of the guys just did a headbutt, and he from Japan just did a headbutt, and actually his career is probably over from just a headbutt. So it doesn't have to be a high flip. You can get hurt getting up off the toilet too fast. and pull something.
That's true.
So it's out there, but these indie guys have to do that to make a name for themselves. Even Rey Mysterio became Rey Mysterio by doing the crazy moves, and when he got to WWE and his knees were blown out, he could do much more simple things, and his history has carried over. So, I mean, you can't take shots at guys doing dives. I mean, the no-selling, yeah, unless you're, jack Japanese guys and you're doing it back and forth, that's a fine story to tell. But a bunch of super kicks in a match, a bunch of high moves, high spots.
I think I summed it up pretty well when I said on my Facebook not too long ago that a stiff kick to the gut seems like it hurts much more than a super kick, which when Shawn Michaels would do it, it was over. The match was over.
Yeah.
But I mean, I understand the argument for they have to get noticed, but if everyone keeps raising the bar, and I try not to be, I'm not an old fuddy-duddy when it concerns wrestling.
Yes.
But to me,
you're just an old fuddy-duddy in general.
That's it. Every other aspect of my life, yes. I'm in bed by 8, lunch and dinner by 3. But where is there left to go? I mean, I'm a professional wrestling fan straight up. I don't care if it's lucha. I don't care if it's just grappling or if it's just demonstration of holds. I'll be there. But as far as the crowd that they attract, are they sticking around?
And I'm for it. Like, the most important part is being able to tell a story and to build things up. Like, when I worked a TLC match, like tables, ladders, and chairs, I didn't just run in and grab the ladder and we start doing crazy stuff.
And that's what made ECW good.
We would build up, and
that's not what makes CZW good.
Right.
You're not buying CZW, you see the great work.
So we would, we would wrestle a little bit and then build up to a big moment where I get a ladder and then a bigger ladder and then the ladder through the table. And it was a big build up, and you do need that. So I'm all for having the crazy high flying stuff. And really, the cruiserweight division, it's got to be like a video game. You got to have the guys fast paced flying, because I don't want to see 220-pound guys doing a headlock and working that. Some guys can. Daniel Bryan, he could put a headlock on a guy or a wrist lock, and he could work a wrist lock for 25 minutes. It would be entertaining the whole time. Some guys can, some guys can't.
Well, Cody Rhodes could too.
Yeah,
he can and does.
There's room for everything in wrestling. So, internet wrestling community, seasoned veterans, don't be bitter about things. There's room for all this. There's room for the ballet high flying. There's room for the risky high flying. There's room for the headlocks, the wrist locks. There's room for the hard punches. And I'll tell you, in all the things, I mean, out of like a choke slam, I would rather dive off the top rope to the outside through a table 10 times over rather than take one chop. A chop, it's simple, and you say, woo, good God, does it hurt? And after your chest is blistered up from that first chop, the second chop is just like hitting the sun.
I think chops are useless too, but
they hurt. They're useful because they make a great sound, but it just goes to show wrestling it's worked, but it's not fake. God, it hurts. So yeah, appreciate these guys flying from the top just as much you'll appreciate a guy taking a stiff sock to the jaw or a good chop to the chest, because you can't tell when you're sitting in that seat what hurts the most, and a lot of it hurts, by God, a lot. Let me take 1 second here. All right, sorry about that. Just had to wake up the screen so we can make sure quality's going here. That's those bugs I was talking about. Okay, that's enough time on the wrestling point. TV, have you got anything you want to cover as far as television goes?
I have been watching Better Call Saul, Season 3, and I'm not going to give you a spoiler, but they explain what the name means, Saul Goodman, which I felt pretty stupid for not realizing much earlier in Breaking Bad. And other than that,
there's a payoff coming up, folks.
There is, but apparently everyone else I talked to knew it, so stupid me. I don't know. But I've been watching Knight Rider, the original Knight Rider, and I'm watching The A-Team and The Incredible Hulk. And I watched a lot of older shows. I've also been keeping up with Game of Thrones. I have one more season, the wife and I have one more season to finish before we're ready for the new season that's coming out, I think, in July.
I'm caught up. I'm excited. That is coming soon. A new trailer dropped today, and everybody collectively
I refuse to watch
went in their pants.
Because I will ruin everything of season before
he
for
can't
me.
because he's behind. Where are you watching all these vintage action shows?
I'm a big iTunes and Apple fan. You can't get the season 1 of Knight Rider on iTunes for some reason. You can get the first season of the new show, which, again, I'm not typically that guy, but I really don't have any interest in watching it.
For good reason.
Yeah. But I bought that on DVD. It was at Walmart for $5, so how can you say no? As far as the A-Team and the Incredible Hulk, I just buy them on iTunes. They have a lot of great sales usually, Or if you want and you're feeling curious, just buy an episode, and that's usually how I go about it.
All right. If you're 18 curious, then get your fix on the old iTunes there, folks.
Yep.
And you can find out what BA really stands for.
Yeah.
All right. I have got in the queue, and this weekend I'm planning on hammering through my queue. So maybe next week I'll have more to talk about. But American Gods, I'm curious about. I'm going to be checking out. And the new Twin Peaks I'm going to be checking out this weekend.
Lego Batman. Movie aspect of it. Yeah, oh, yeah, that's right.
That's hitting now too. But I'm checking those out. I'll have those to talk about. Unfortunately, TV, when I watch my wrestling, but as far as plotline shows, I don't have a lot of time to check those out. I like my reality competition shows, so I'm keeping up with Face Off and with the Cosplay Melee, which is the cosplay version of that. Because that type of stuff motivates me to keep drawing, keep creating, and it does keep me in tune with the nerd scene.
Do you watch it on live TV?
Yeah, no. Nope, I watch it after the fact. I don't have live cable, but I try to
watch
watch stuff as soon as I can.
I don't watch cable either. Between Hulu, WWE Network, Chikarpedia, all that fun stuff.
That's everything you need. But unfortunately, I'm not up to date to be able to discuss that, but I like those things. I do like the reality shows of that nature, not the drama ones, but the competitive ones. Motivates me, inspires me. And you can watch it here and there because it doesn't necessarily have a plot line where you tune in later and it's like, oh, so-and-so gave birth. I'm like, yeah, I didn't know they were pregnant, and now you're just completely lost.
They don't do that in a cosplay show.
But Game of Thrones, yes, I'll be checking that out as live as I can to avoid spoilers and things of that nature. But Mondays are a big day to stay off social media, so that way you don't get spoilers for all the other things. Movies, I'm going to go with home releases first. I got my copy of Logan right here. Personally, I got the exclusive Target edition, has a little book with it. I don't know much about that, but considering it was the same price, why not go with the exclusives? But it's really cool, and I was trying to research it because I haven't had a chance to cut it open and watch it yet. I watched Logan in the theaters. It was really cool. They took advantage of the R rating.
Did they ever?
I had a fear that like Deadpool did good with an R, so they're like, oh, we're just gonna slap an R and everything and fill it with curse words, and the kids are gonna love it.
Definitely not a kids movie. I can tell you that.
It is not. They used the R wisely. They used it where they should have. And something notable to break out there for you guys is check. Some of these have a Logan Noir version. And again, since you're not paying any extra, you might as well take advantage of it, whether you care or not.
Actually, I believe all the Blu-ray and DVD copies
are packed with it.
All retail are, and iTunes release.
With the iTunes even, they give you the package version. The Noir version it's in black and white, gives you a new way to look at it if you did love the movie. But again, it's included, so why not take advantage of that? Might be one reason to pick it up now, because a lot of times I'll wait till Black Friday to get physical copies of things once I've seen them in the theater. But it's makes it worth picking it up for the full price. So that's available. That's out there. Noir version. I don't think any scenes are different. Just that they went with the black and white and they adjusted some of it so that the black and white pops a little more. In theaters right now, which if you're listening to us later is a while ago. We got Pirates of the Caribbean. We've got Guardians of the Galaxy,
which I enjoyed thoroughly. I thought it was phenomenal.
Some people said don't watch the first one, then go watch the second one, which is a lesson I learned a while ago. I like to get myself pumped up for a new movie by watching the movies that led to it, but then sometimes that kind of burns you out on the property. So you're better off watching the new one, getting excited, and then doubling back to watch the old one to maintain that excitement at home until you can buy the new one. Because you feel 2 didn't live up to 1, did it? It was awesome, but not...
No, I think it did. I think it's just... In the first one, you got to really know the characters, and in the second one, it was insta plot. So I think that's what made a lot of people upset because they really liked, But the thing that's interesting is I felt like you got to know the characters better in this movie than you did the first one. But
good.
I loved both of them. I would put them right on scale with each other. You're going to come to find out that I have a pretty garbage taste in movies, so I might not be the best person to ask. I think Sharknado should have won an Academy Award.
It is funny, because we're calling it pop culture. He's very counterculture. Anything that the world likes, he generally doesn't, whether it's on purpose or not. Who cares? Because it gives us a different perspective, and I dig that. And my kind of counter thing here is Guardians out this weekend again. I'll be checking Guardians out. I'm also going to try to watch Pirates of the Caribbean. A lot of people burned 2 through 4, I think it is now. Especially the last one, people didn't like it. But for me, that's the same as the Pirates movies are like the Lord of the Rings material and a lot of that type of stuff where even if it's bad, it's still good to me because the visuals are just stunning. I would watch it just to see the effects and the characters, the larger-than-life characters. So I loved all those movies from that perspective.
I love
even
Star
if they
Wars
didn't
1,
change the
2, and
world.
3.
So
And
I
a
did
lot
for
of
the
people-
visuals too. Yeah, even just the Darth Maul parts. So we're not here to crap on anything. We're just here to give you what's going on, what's coming out, and what's coming out is we've got Wonder Woman drops next week. So if you've been watching for that to come, it's coming out next week. The trailers are up. You can watch them on Hulu. You can watch them on the YouTube. But definitely exciting. A lot of positive reactions coming out from that. I'm very particular about my superhero movies, so I hope it lives up to my standards. I'm going to wait for some reviews before I hit the theater, but it is.
People are positive about it because like the general community does not like Suicide Squad. Loved it. Didn't like Batman v Superman. Loved it.
The question being, I don't know if they're just loving it in relation to how much they hated Batman Superman, but I hope it does good because it is a female-driven superhero movie or female-driven movie in general. It does look like a butt kicker. I'm pretty excited to check it out. I hope it lives up to the standard that I have. But again, watching the trailers, I'm thinking just from a visual standpoint, it's going to be kind of cool. And there is some breaking news as far as the follow-up to Wonder Woman goes. The Justice League movie that is coming out, Zack Snyder has had to drop out of because of a tragedy in his family. Very unfortunate.
I thought that was coming out this summer.
I don't remember the date, to be quite honest. I should have pulled that up, but it's in the final touches. It's filmed up. Yeah. It's in the final touches. Zack Snyder, for family tragedy, had to drop out. Joss Whedon is taking over. Joss Whedon, of course, is the guy that made the Avengers movie. And so if I've got some kind of high hopes, sometimes when you get conflicting creators on something, it bogs something down. But I'm hoping, because Zack Snyder, for all the flaws that he's got in the stuff he did after Watchmen was incredible, he still makes visually stunning things. So I'm hoping that the visual, since it's mostly filmed, or all the way filmed, that the visual integrity that Zack Snyder brought to the movie, along with the heart that Joss Whedon tends to bring to projects, I'm hoping it's going to be a winning combo, and that a very unfortunate tragedy for Zack Snyder ends up becoming kind of a win for the fans by having these two guys collaborate on the project.
I love all the movies, so I think the fans have already won. So
I do own them all, love or hate, but the rewatch value is there again for me for the visuals. Batman, Superman.
Ben Affleck is Batman.
Just throw it on in the background, and I love the visuals of it. And actually, in Batman, Superman, if you do get it at all, you go out in your Black Friday shopping, get the extended cut, because those little niblets that they cut out actually made it a much better movie.
That's how I saw it first. I've never seen the one in theaters. I didn't go.
You're better off. It's literally seconds worth of material tacked on, but it made closed a lot of plot holes. Big difference. So if you do end up, you've never seen Batman Superman, or you saw it and hated it, check out the extended one. Give it another chance, and it actually cleans up a little. I mean, the obvious things that fans were hurt over are still there, but it did fix a lot of the material in it. Moving on next to music. Some sad news from the chiptunes community, if you want to give a...
Oh, yeah. For those of you that follow, so again, I'm talking mostly about the Northeast people that follow like the New York City chiptune scene. We lost Tony Ness, who is, if you ever picked up a Game Boy and wanted to try to throw your hat in the ring to make music, he was the one that made you feel welcome. I remember when I first wrote a really horrible attempt at music, and he pointed out what was good to me. And we used to have long talks on the phone when I used to work a job I wasn't too fond of, and we would help each other. And we kind of always stayed in touch, and mostly about wrestling, not about chiptune, which was kind of funny. But I miss Tony, and up there, depending on what you believe in, is very lucky to have him up there, because he's a very good character. But as far as mainstream music news, The only thing that I've been really excited about, I haven't watched it yet, but I'm a huge Rammstein fan, and they just came out with their Live in Paris concert, which, as far as I could tell, is only available on iTunes, because I was going to buy the actual Blu-ray copy, but I haven't watched it yet. I listened to the album, though, which I'm sure it's pretty much the same stuff, just I heard it's shot really well. The live album, they don't miss a note. They know what they're doing. They're phenomenal.
They're so fun to watch in concerts.
I remember their first live concert. It came out on DVD. I saw it when I was in 7th grade. And there's one scene in it, I won't go into details, but it definitely opened up my eyes.
Yeah, their videos are awesome for the Perturbed. And their concerts, I mean, they bring a lot of effects. They go all out. So I have an old one on DVD that I originally saw at a car show. It was part of a booth, and I had to hunt and find it online many, many years ago. And it's a treasure to me. And now that YouTube is around, I've watched them on there. So actually, that's news to me. I'm super excited to check that out. So a new Rammstein concert is available, and that's from Paris. That's cool. We are trying to stay off of general news topics and away from the politics. So beyond that, there's nothing huge trending right now that's outside the parameters of what we've already talked about. Thank you so much for checking us out. Like I said, upcoming, we're going to get into some more details. So when we get to the comics, I'll talk about sales numbers and what's actually going on in the books. We'll discuss more in depth some of the action figures coming out from different genres. We'll talk about the plot lines going on in different wrestling shows. We'll get into a little more into some of the TV shows and what we think of what's going on in there and try to refer you to what's right for you. And more movies will have come out and will be coming out. And we're not going to discuss anything that happens in movies. I want to keep it totally spoiler free. And for me, a spoiler is not just revealing what happens in a movie, but doing anything to change your perspective. So we might give a light opinion on who the movie's right for, but we try not to wreck anything for you. And check out, you'll see more material, our opening credits from Elbow Drop, our music, and our closing credits. And please check that out. Where can we find Elbow Drop music?
You can Google Optimus Chad, spelled just like the Transformer, and just Google Optimus Chad Bandcamp, and you'll find a slew of music from myself and from my band Elbow Drop. All the music is free. Just take a listen, or you can download it and keep it forever.
Awesome. We are going to 1 week out have another podcast. 1 week out from that have another podcast. And then we're going to go every other week until we get some momentum and there's demand to maybe go more frequently. And then maybe in between we'll do some videos responding to comments and questions from you guys. So please give us feedback. Please, wherever you're liking this, hit the like button. You can check out me, my comic projects, the home for this podcast, get links to the Optimus Chad and Elbow Drop material, and the t-shirts and things I've designed and sell through catatomicstudios.com. There's going to be a link for it wherever this is, because that is home base for me. You can find me on Twitter at ComicsPete. And hit me up with questions, interactions. I try to do as much as I can on there. And I will give you my convention appearances in future episodes also. Any final thoughts?
Nope.
All right. Thanks a lot, folks. Be good. Take care of yourselves. And take that next step.